The night of Halloween, 2007, was a peculiar one, filled with an air of unease and an unsettling sense of foreboding. I, along with my friends Ivan, Ryan, and Jesse, had decided to don the iconic costumes of Super Mario characters. Ivan, being the shortest among us, took on the role of Mario, while I, being the second tallest, became Luigi. Jesse, with his lanky frame, played the part of Luigi, and Ryan, with his robust build, was Wario. Our group costumes were a delightful sight to behold, and we were excited to spend the evening trick-or-treating in our suburban neighborhood. As we made our way from house to house, our bags filling up with an assortment of candies, we noticed that many of the houses had stopped answering our knocks, their porch lights extinguished for the night. It was as if the neighborhood was slowly succumbing to the darkness, and we were the only ones left to brave the night. Approaching a house that seemed promising, we spotted a purple bucket on the stoop, our hearts racing with excitement. But as I reached for it, I realized with a sinking feeling that it was empty. The disappointment was palpable, and we quickly moved on to the next house. It was then that we encountered an older man, balding and with a somewhat unhinged look in his eye. He invited us inside, claiming he had more candy to give, but Ivan's instincts told him to be wary. We politely declined, and the man's expression turned sour, but he said nothing as we walked away. As we continued our trick-or-treating adventure, the night began to take on a surreal quality. The darkness seemed to grow thicker, and the sounds of the forest grew louder. It was as if the very woods themselves were watching us, waiting for something to unfold. We eventually made our way to Jesse's house, where we regrouped and tried to process the strange occurrences of the night. But just as we thought we were safe, we heard a faint rustling in the woods, followed by the snapping of twigs. The sound sent shivers down our spines, and we quickly retreated to Jesse's backyard, our hearts racing with fear. The night was filled with more twists and turns, as we discovered a mysterious figure lurking in the shadows, only to reveal himself as Jesse's mom, followed by a disturbing text message from Jesse, claiming that the figure was not his mom. As the night wore on, we continued our trick-or-treating escapades, but the atmosphere had changed. We were no longer just collecting candy, we were on the lookout for any signs of danger lurking in the shadows. Years later, I found myself chaperoning my little brother Kevin and his friends while they trick-or-treated. The experience was a far cry from the thrill and excitement of my own Halloween adventures, but it was still a night to remember. As we made our way from house to house, collecting candy and laughter, I couldn't help but think of the strange and unsettling occurrences of my own Halloween nights. The memory of those ghostly apparitions and eerie encounters still lingered, a reminder that sometimes, the most innocent-looking nights can hold the darkest secrets. In another part of the town, my friends Jordan and Chris were embarking on their own Halloween adventure. As they walked down the forest roads, the silence was broken only by the occasional rustling of leaves and the distant howling of wolves. The darkness seemed to swallow them whole, and they couldn't help but feel like they were being watched. As they approached the entrance to the dirt road, they noticed a peculiar sign that read, "If there is no more candy, enter the back at your own risk for more." The orange glow of the torches seemed to beckon them, and Chris's reservations were overruled by Jordan and me, who were determined to explore the mysterious property. The backyard was a small clearing, lit up by orange lanterns that cast an eerie glow. The air was heavy with an unsettling energy, and we couldn't help but feel like we were trespassing on forbidden ground. As we made our way back to the dirt road, we couldn't shake the feeling that we had stumbled into something sinister, something that would haunt us for years to come. The night of Halloween, 2007, was one that would be etched in our memories forever, a night that would haunt us with its dark and unsettling secrets. The night air was heavy with an eerie orange glow, casting long shadows across the small, overgrown yard. A lone torch, its flame flickering like a dying heartbeat, stood sentinel in the center of the clearing. It was the only source of light, casting an otherworldly sheen on the weathered wooden shed and the scattering of tools and wood chips on the grass. The house loomed in the background, its walls bearing the scars of time and neglect, its windows like empty eyes staring back. As we approached the back door, a note caught my attention, its words scrawled in bold black ink, "If candy is what you desire, then you have to look closer to the fire." I remembered it vividly, even to this day, the way my heart skipped a beat as I realized the cryptic message was addressed to us. My friend Chris was skeptical, his brow furrowed in concern. Jordan, on the other hand, seemed intrigued, his eyes sparkling with excitement. As we drew closer to the torch, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The air was heavy with an unsettling energy, like the anticipation before a storm breaks. Chris's reservations grew louder, but I was hesitant to agree, not wanting to seem scared in front of Jordan. The shed loomed to our left, its wooden slats weathered to a soft gray, while the tools and wood chips scattered across the grass seemed to be arranged in a deliberate pattern. Jordan, ever the thrill-seeker, led us closer to the woods, but I was no longer following. Chris's doubts had infected me, and I was pushing Jordan to leave, to abandon this strange and unsettling game. But he was undeterred, his eyes fixed on some unknown point in the distance. I began to examine the house, my gaze wandering over the cracked windows and the blinds that seemed to be hiding secrets. That was when I saw her. Or him. I couldn't tell. A figure, tall and imposing, peered down at me from the upstairs window. They noticed me, and with a swift motion, the blinds slid shut, plunging the room into darkness. I grabbed Jordan's arm, tugging him towards the shed, my heart racing. But he was frozen, his gaze fixed on the woods. I followed his stare, and that was when I saw him. A figure emerged from the trees, his face obscured by a gruesome mask, a machete clutched in his hand. Jordan's laughter was infectious, and even Chris seemed to be enjoying the spectacle. But I was frozen in terror, my mind reeling with the implications. And then, in an instant, the figure charged, the machete swinging through the air. Jordan dodged just in time, and we turned and ran, the torches flickering like fireflies in the darkness. We sprinted down the dirt road, our feet pounding out a frantic rhythm, until we reached the paved road and didn't stop until we were safe at my house. Jordan was vomiting, his face pale and clammy. Chris seemed shaken, but I was numb, my mind reeling with the horror of what we had just witnessed. My parents were summoned, and my dad called the police, his voice steady and calm. We drove back to the scene, the police car tailgating us, but when we arrived, the house was empty, the torches extinguished, and the candy bucket vanished. The police searched the premises, but it was too late. The house had been vacant for months, a perfect setup for a macabre game. We described what we had seen, but the officers seemed skeptical, their faces expressionless. As we drove away, the darkness closing in around us, I realized that the world was a scarier place than I had ever imagined.